Those pesky Paul George rumors are back. So what is kind of the Orlando Magic's ideal summer? What are they actually going to do? Plus, why waiting on extensions might be the right idea, and it's NBA Finals catch-up day here on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 10th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, those pesky Paul George rumors are back. So what is the Orlando Magic's ideal summer? What do we actually expect them to do? We're going to talk about all that, plus why waiting on extensions for Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs might be the better idea for this team. We're going to get to that coming up here, plus update you on what's going on in the NBA Finals in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So we are coming up here 2 weeks to go till the NBA draft, 3 weeks to go until free agency begins at June 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So we will have a very special episode on June 30th when that happens. It is going to be a busy free agency for the Orlando Magic. We've gone through free agents. We'll do another kind of case for against coming up here. And I think I know who we're actually going to do this week. Case for and against, we'll do one of those. We're kind of going through things here, very piecemeal, but obviously, we want to follow the news. And the Magic are notoriously quiet about everything. And that's okay. You know, honestly, I've had some Magic people yell at me for pointing this out, but look, it's okay. That's how you do your business. That's how you do it. You don't have to tell us anything. We'd love to have something just because there's a vacuum to fill. We got a news hole to fill here. But I've never believed that it's necessarily a bad thing that the Magic are very, very quiet about free agency, and they certainly don't negotiate things through the media. So personally, I am always very skeptical when I see reports like the one I'm about to share with you. It's not that I don't believe the reporter is not being told this. Mark Stein is a 100% respected reporter. I would not share this report if I did not feel like it had legitimacy or had backing. But I just want to reiterate that I think it's very, very clear that this is not necessarily coming from the Magic. This is still speculation from the outside. In that sense, what I'm about to share is not anything new. It's not an update to anything that it's not new information. It's just reiterating reporting that has been out there really since February. And so here it is. Mark Stein in his newsletter said, quote, "Heard it again this week. Philadelphia is not the only Eastern Conference team to monitor when it comes to trying to sign Paul George away from the LA Clippers. Orlando continues to be mentioned by various league observers as a natural suitor for George, as well as Golden State's Klay Thompson." I want to reiterate what that says there. Orlando continues to be mentioned by league observers as a natural suitor. That does not mean that the Magic are 100% interested in going after Paul George or Klay Thompson, but there is a lot of professional dot connecting. And obviously it's in Paul George's agent's interest to try and convince Philadelphia, like, hey, Orlando wants to spend too, or convince LA, like, we got two teams interested in our guy, pony up that extra $5 million per year or whatever, however much it is to keep those players. We've gone through this a little bit. I don't know if we've done the full numbers and the full accounting, so that might be something to work on later this week. But the Magic can have anywhere between about $30 and $50 million in cap room, realistically. I believe our friend Keith Smith, the Spot Track, has the Magic at about $45 million in projected cap room. And why is there such a wide range? It's because Joe Ingles has a team option for $11 million. Mo Wagner has a team option for $8 million. That $19 million is the 30 to 50. There's some other math going on there, but basically Orlando can free up $19 extra million by declining team options on June 29th for Joe Ingles and Mo Wagner. We said this. I know I've said this to people for a long, long time. If the Magic do not pick up that team option on Joe Ingles, that is a sign the Magic are up to something big. I don't think that they would let Joe Ingles walk if they did not have something big planned or they did not intend to use that money. I would say that over the last week or so, my gut feeling is that the Magic will decline that team option. Our friend Keith Smith said on this show that he anticipates the Magic will decline the team option on Mo Wagner just to create the extra cap room, with the understanding that they will bring Mo Wagner back on the room exception, which is about the same as the $8 million that he's declining. So there's some cap math that's going to go on. We'll go into some more cap math here in a little bit in our second segment about the extensions for Jalen and Franz. I would sit here and say this, though. I don't think Paul George or Klay Thompson are the answer. Those two players are going to cost you at least $30 million. And look, they would make the Magic better. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. But those are short-term fixes. They are short-term fixes. If you're adding them, your need to win and win big increases dramatically. Those are not players that you're necessarily going to be able to flip again to get that kind of extra player that you need to get over the top. If you're bringing those guys in, it's because you believe you are ready to win with them over the next 2 to 3 years. And frankly, it's not that I don't believe in this Magic team or Paolo or any of them. I don't think the Magic are at that stage. You add veterans like Paul George and Klay Thompson at the money they're asking for. They're both going to ask for $30, maybe $35 million a year, which, again, the Magic can pay. They have the cap room to pay that. You bring those players in when you need that last player to get you over the hump, to get you to the championship. That's, to me, when you make those deals. And honestly, I think the Magic need a little bit more of a long-term solution. I think the Magic need to be thinking, how do we keep building and growing this out? How do we keep expanding what we're doing rather than saying, this is it, let's push our chips in? Again, it's not so much that they're pushing their chips in, but I think you got to be playing 2-3 steps ahead. I don't think I've kind of established this yet. So let me establish this in this segment. This is my ideal summer for the Orlando Magic. I think the Magic need to sign a starting guard. I prefer a point guard. I think Malik Monk is probably the best player out there, but he's not a true point guard. I think Tyus Jones is a stopgap option. I think D'Angelo Russell would be a big play, but I have concerns about him in the playoffs, and I think that's ultimately what matters for this team. A trading for Anthony Simons, I think, would qualify for this. I think if the Magic have $50 million in cap room, the Magic need to spend $23 to $25 million on that cap room on bringing in a starting caliber guard, preferably a point guard, to complete this starting group. To me, that is the big ticket item of the summer. If you're thinking about this the other way, then essentially the Magic have 5 players they got to replace on their roster. Gary Harris, Markelle Fultz, Joe Ingles, Chuma Okeke, Goga Bitadze. Those are the 5 players we're looking to replace. Now, essentially, you're signing a guard to replace Gary Harris. You essentially hope that Anthony Black fills in those Markelle Fultz minutes. You hope that Jet Howard can help fill in the Joe Ingles minutes. You don't want him, between him and Caleb Houston, one of those two guys needs to step up and guard the Joe Ingles minutes. And if you don't believe in that, go get a wing. And so to me, that's where I'm either drafting or signing another wing player. I like Malik Beasley a lot in this spot. I really like Malik Beasley as a potential three-point shooter. He's used to starting Milwaukee, so he can give you some spot starts when guys get hurt. but maybe you can bring him off the bench. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's going to cost you $20 million a year. There's a few other mid-tier options. I think later I got all these episodes planned. I just got to get to kind of writing and clarifying my thoughts before I share them with you. But essentially, free agency wise, I want to add 3 players. So we got essentially five players to replace. And obviously, you move Anthony Black up, you're replacing him with someone. We'll get to that. You got 3 players I think you're trying to sign. A starting point guard, number 1. Number 2, a mid-level wing guy, someone at that $12 to $15 million a year range. That's going to be a wing player. Some might say Buddy Hield. I saw some people speculating that Buddy Hield could end up getting a minimum contract. If that's the case, that's money well spent, in my opinion. I know he really struggled in Philadelphia. Just didn't work out coming back from Indiana. Had a really bad start to the year in Indiana. I thought he was going to be a $20 million a year player. He's certainly not going to be that. 15 feels like too much with the way that his season went. You can probably get a really quality shooter like Buddy Hield at a bargain price. Bring him into this fold, see what you can do with him. Obviously, defense is a concern with him as well. But we'll go through some mid-level options. But I think add a mid-level player. And then finally, the last need, get that third center. Maybe you just re-sign Goga Bitadze. I'm not against that. Goga's fine. You still need kind of a starting caliber big to help fill in the minutes help fill in the games that Wendell Carter is going to miss. Right now, I haven't looked too deeply at the kind of minimum center market. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein and Nick Claxton are kind of on the high end. I'd be looking at Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond, solid veteran, good defender, knows his role, played a really big part in Chicago. You can use him as a backup center very comfortably if Mo Wagner doesn't work out for whatever reason, or you just need defense that night. Guy that's going to accept his role and I think play really, really well. That is you lose some versatility offensively, obviously, but get a veteran in. I'm all for getting veterans in like him. And I think he would be a really valuable player and give this team a new dimension that they don't have. And if you're doing it at near the veterans minimum, if you're doing it at less than $8 million a year, even if you're doing a 1-year, $8 million contract and you're still signing Mo Wagner to an $8 million contract, I think you're doing pretty good. $8 million seems steep, honestly. You could probably get him at $4 million. You could probably get him real cheap. And again, the Magic have some money to burn. So to me, that is the ideal offseason. It isn't, for me, the big thing for me this offseason, and the reason why I'm not a fan of chasing after Paul George or chasing after Klay Thompson, the reason why I don't like that idea is it feels like you're kind of throwing all your money at one player. And I don't think that's the path for Orlando. Orlando needs to keep adding depth. They need to keep adding they need to kind of fill out their roster. And like I said, you're essentially replacing 5 players this offseason from your roster. And again, Anthony Black might slide up. Jet Howard might slide up. So you're looking to replace them. You can fill those guys with draft picks. Go get Jamal Sheed, who we know worked out for the Magic, or KJ Simpson in the second round. Go get Keshawn George, like I talked about last week, or go get a quality wing player, a rookie wing player to kind of fill in those minutes and be a G League guy, or again, fill it in with veterans. There are a lot of options. And to me, what matters for the Magic this summer is A, improving the roster, getting a little bit older, but B also establishing depth and keeping flexibility. You want to, the big thing for me is to set the chessboard. You need to have the contracts you're willing to trade and players who you're comfortable stepping up into bigger roles or combining into other players for the time when you don't have the free money the Magic have this summer. The Magic have free money. This and next summer might be their last summer with free money, and it's because of the decisions coming up with Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs. So we've hinted at this in various conversations we've had throughout the summer. Why might it be better to wait on Franz and Jalen's extension, even though it's something that is so important? I'm going to explain why it might be better to wait coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel. If you're tired of the hot takes, if you're tired of the uninformed analysis from people who don't know these teams, for the biggest sports stories of the day, Locked On Sports Today is your place to go. It is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports from the local experts who know their team best. Get the best of the Locked On Podcast Network, the biggest stories of the day from the Locked On Podcast Network, with all the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we've kind of, I think I've kind of made it clear. Like, I'm not in for going after the superstar. This isn't the summer to chase a superstar. Let Paolo continue to explore his canvas and refine what it means for him to be a star. You're still kind of learning what you need around him. Let Franz Wagner figure out whether he's a number two. Like, let's figure that out. You know, I don't think anyone's ready to make that conclusion, and no one wants to get in the way of what Franz and Paolo are doing. And so while I think both Paul George and Klay Thompson can play very complementary roles, and I'm very much in favor of finding a Horace Grant. Give me a player with championship experience that's going to help make this team better. Klay Thompson certainly fits that bill. I'm not going to be upset if we get here, if we're doing an episode on July 1st or late in the evening, June 30th. I'm not going to be upset if we're sitting here and I'm talking about bringing one of those players in. I will be surprised, but I'm not going to be upset. It's not what I think this team should do. Like I said, I think this team should be really focused on kind of spreading that money around, setting up their chessboard, because as Jeff Weltman has made very, very clear, their time is coming. The free money the Magic have, the ability to spend as much as they want, that time is coming to an end. We've got this summer and next summer. So if there's a little bit of urgency to spend, it's because we know the time to spend is almost up. Because after next season, Franz Wagner's going to get paid. If he gets a max, he gets a salary starting at roughly $38 million. Jalen Suggs is going to get paid. He is probably looking at a contract starting at $25 million a year. Just I want you to get used to some of these numbers. It's going to happen, and we'll argue. Don't focus on the raw number. Focus on percentage of the cap. Franz Wagner's max is 25%. When Paolo Banchero becomes a free agent in 2 years, his max contract will start at, I believe, $42 million, and he's getting a max. It's done. There's no negotiating that. But here's the thing. I would argue the most important thing the Magic do this offseason or next is secure extensions for Paolo and for Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs. They can't do it for Paolo Banchero yet. I would argue that the most important thing the Magic do this summer is to secure the future for those two players. That doesn't mean they're putting pen to paper quite yet. As the Philadelphia 76ers are reminding us, it's actually very advantageous to wait. And so why are we talking about next summer as potentially a cap room summer as well? It's actually really quite simple. It won't be as much as this season. But let's just say the cap increases the way we expect it to increase, that it goes to $155 million. The difference is, and the reason why the Sixers waited to sign an extension for Tyrese Maxey is cap holds. I believe I mentioned this concept to you all, and if you listen to our podcast with Keith Smith, hopefully you caught up on what cap holds mean. But cap holds are essentially these placeholders that allow a team to retain the right to re-sign a player using whatever rights are kind of asserted. So in this case, we're talking about bird rights. Bird rights is this rule under the salary cap that allows a team to go over the cap to re-sign their own free agents up to any amount, so long as that player played 3 consecutive years under the same team or under the same contract. So like, why are the Knicks in a tough spot with Isaiah Hartenstein? It's because he only signed a 2-year deal with the Knicks. He's only played 2 years with the Knicks. They're limited in what they can offer him and go over the cap. So the Sixers, and by extension, the Magic with Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs, the Sixers own Tyrese Maxey's bird rights. They're going to give him a max contract. He's expected to sign a 5-year, $205 million contract. And again, Franz Wagner's number is going to be higher than that if he signs a max. But he's going to sign a max. And if it was, I don't know if it was a sure thing that he was going to sign a max last summer, but waiting was always the right choice. Because your cap hold is only 250% of your previous year's salary. That means coming off his rookie contract, remember, he wasn't a super high pick. His cap hold is only $13 million. If he signed a max contract last summer, he would be paid $35.3 million, and that would be the number that counts against the Sixers cap. The Sixers would be costing themselves $22 million in room if they had signed Tyrese Maxey last summer. That would prevent them from chasing Paul George. And again, it is very, very, I mean, if I were making a guess, Paul George is going to be a Philadelphia 76er. That would be my guess. The Magic are in the same dilemma. We don't yet know how much cap room they're going to have in 2025. I've actually made it a point to revisit this after the dust settles and we get a sense of how much money the Magic spend this summer. But the Magic only have $56.4 million committed to the 2026 season. So next summer, they only have $56.4 million in guaranteed contracts. That includes picking up team options for Paolo Banchero, Anthony Black, Jet Howard, and the number 18 pick. Wagner's cap hold is only approximately $17.5 million. Jalen Suggs' cap hold is approximately $23 million. So realistically, sign Jalen Suggs, don't sign Jalen Suggs. You're kind of being about the same amount. Jalen Suggs is probably going to sign for probably a little bit more than that cap hold number. But if Franz Wagner is indeed going to get a max or anywhere near a max, that's going to be double his cap hold. So as we're sitting here, the Magic are operating with $64.2 million in cap room for the summer of 2025 if the salary cap does indeed increase to $155.1 million. And so the difference is $17.5 million. That includes, I believe, the $17.5 million I have for Franz Wagner. So if you double that, if you say, okay, Franz is signing a deal worth 38, you're already eating into half of your cap room for next summer. This is what bird rights do. Bird rights allow you to double dip a little bit because you can go over the cap to sign your own players. You just have to count that cap hold amount, that 250% of the previous year's salary under your books to enable yourself to have that right. And like I think we made this point this year with Gary Harris, with Markelle Fultz, you can activate and deactivate cap holds as needed. It's a purely cap mechanic. It's not something you have to sign. It's not something you have to declare. As you're signing players, you deactivate it or use them as necessary. So as you know, again, the order in which you sign players actually kind of matters. It's a weird cap quirk. But this is why it might be advantageous, especially with Franz Wagner. Maybe not so much with Jalen Suggs, but especially with Franz Wagner to wait on extensions. Because the Magic could be in a position to spend again next year. This year's free agent class is considered okay, not great. Next year's free agent class, considered a little bit better. I think it'll shape up and shake down a little bit. I don't think it'll be as strong as it's looking right now. But again, you can use cap room in trades. So you align yourself a little bit with some contracts. Then you absorb more money in trades. That is a thing you can do as well. And so the Magic have to consider whether it's worth to wait and whether this isn't the summer to fully spend their money, whether it's also next summer that they should add a little bit. Now, they obviously have to plan because their payroll is going to increase pretty dramatically. Franz is going to get 30 plus million, probably $35 million a year at minimum. Paolo Banchero is going to sign a deal that starts at $40 million a year, or roughly $40 million a year. That's going to happen in the summer of 2026. It's happening. Just be prepared for it. The Magic know they're going to start being up against the cap and start being up against the apron and all these different rules. And so again, going back to our original conversation, the Magic have to keep some flexibility. They have to be able to move very nimbly. And so I think this summer is really about arranging the chessboard. It's not about going after one player or one guy that's going to soak up all the attention. It's actually going to be about setting this team up, not only for success this year, that matters, but setting them up for success down the road. And obviously there is negotiation that's going to have to come. Is Franz Wagner really worth the max? That's going to be something that's going to be debated, should be debated. I think you do it just to take care of it if you either believe in the guy or you don't. But again, it would be to the Magic's benefit to wait. So maybe that max is on the table and you say, hey, it'll be here next year. For cap reasons, we want to keep you a free agent. With Jalen Suggs, maybe you want to get him at $23 million and you just want to get that done now. Would not surprise me if that is the case. But it might, again, be beneficial to wait as well, because at the end of the day, the Magic do have restricted free agent rights on both. They can match any deal anyone puts up for them. And so it's all this summer, despite the Magic's need to spend and improve the roster, it's still about flexibility. We're going to close today's show, talk a little bit about the NBA Finals as we make our way a little bit around the league here on Monday's update on what's going on, what we've seen from the NBA Finals in 2 games coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a word from our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 8 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. That's why they're constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. That just takes so much off your plate. Make sure you're getting the best candidates. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, so why not you? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The Boston Celtics take a 2-0 lead on the Dallas Mavericks as the NBA Finals continue. And look, we want to keep an eye on the NBA Finals. We want to keep an eye on what's going on at the highest levels because that's what's going to tell us what works for the Orlando Magic. And obviously, the easy thing to say is Boston's a really good shooting team. But what was really interesting in Game 2 on Sunday night was Boston didn't shoot the ball really well. And that kept Dallas in the game, and turnovers were a big issue for the Celtics. But at the end of the day, Boston, like, the end of the day, I can't help but think Dallas plays similar to Orlando, and Boston is really the ideal of what Orlando wants to become. Boston has Jason Tatum who can guard one-on-one. They have, who can play one-on-one and score. In a lot of ways, like, I've seen people compare what Orlando is trying to build with Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner to what Boston's done with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And obviously, they've had a long process of trying to figure out, how do we avoid the kind of your turn, my turn play that has limited their effectiveness in a lot of ways, or limited their ability to finally lift the gold trophy at the end of the year. And like, look, this year really feels like they figured it out. Like, Jaylen Brown's having great finals. Jason Tatum isn't shooting well, but it doesn't matter because Boston's looking like downright Spursy with their passing. Like, it's just, everyone's moving the ball. They know where each other is going to be. And even on top of this, like, if we're going to talk about like what Orlando's trying to be as well, the way Boston is defending, the way they're together, the way they switch, the way everybody takes personal responsibility, that's just downright impressive. Like, look, the Celtics were the best team in the league all year. It should not be surprising that they look like the best team in the league in the playoffs. They've got 2 losses in this playoffs. They're dominating this series against the Mavericks. And even though they didn't play a great game 2, it never felt like the game was really in danger. Like, yeah, Dallas had the lead in the first half, but when Boston made their runs, and you always do, those runs are going to come in those spurts when they just hit a bunch of threes, was coming. Dallas just left the door open. They, missed free throws. Like, they turned the ball over. They relied very heavily on isolation ball. They're struggling to get the ball moving. It sounds really familiar to the Magic, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, Luka's a higher level of player than Paolo. Kyrie Irving's been kind of hot and cold this series. I think he's played okay. There are others are just not hitting shots. PJ Washington isn't hitting shots. Derrick Jones Jr. isn't hitting shots. Maxi Kleba just looks downright unplayable right now. Dallas is struggling to get the ball moving. And again, that's by design. And yes, Luka had a triple-double. So, they were better in game 2 than they were in game 1. But Boston has really decided, we're going to switch everything and try and make Luka beat us with his scoring. And if Luka scores, so be it. So what? And Dallas, I think, did a really good job attacking switches a lot better in game 2. They looked to get the ball to Gafford in the post a little bit more, or PJ Washington in the post when they got guards to switch on him. They did a much better job, in my opinion, forcing turnovers. So those mistakes helped Dallas a lot, and getting down the court much quicker. I think, honestly, a key in this series is Dallas has got to play faster, and that is not how they play. Luka likes to play slow, and that, to me, honestly, that plays into Boston's hands. Again, this feels like the Magic all over again. And the Magic, I think, are a little bit bigger and more versatile defensively. That's why they give Boston some trouble. But Boston gives Orlando a lot of trouble because their switching bothers Orlando too, because they aren't able to pass the ball and kind of create tension in the defense. Boston is so comfortable switching 1 through 5 that they really bog down offenses. It's really impressive to watch. And this is like one of the Magic's big weaknesses. When Boston gets in the paint, you watch Jason Tatum fling those passes to the corner. Like, they know where everybody is going to be. And again, at the end of the day, Celtics made shots. They got to the foul line, made the free throws, something the Magic don't do. Dallas didn't do that in the first half. This is a battle of a team versus a star. And look, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are really good players. I'm not taking anything away from them. This is a battle of a team in Boston that is playing at a really high level, really together. The way every championship team, the way we think about championship teams playing. And a team in Dallas that is very heliocentric and star dependent, that frankly, I don't want to say they don't trust each other, but this is what happened in game 7. Like in the Magic's game 7, this Magic team is super together. I think there was a lot of trust, but in game 7, Paolo understood very quickly, because Franz and Jaylen weren't playing well, that he had to carry the whole team. And he ran out of gas. And that's a big reason why Orlando lost game 7. Like, the play of game 7 for the Magic was when Donovan Mitchell fed it to Darius Garland. He missed a 3. Cleveland got the offensive rebound, and Mitchell fed it right back to Garland, same spot, and they took it again. He made the shot. I believe it made it a 7-point game. That was A, when you felt like the game was over, and B, when you understood that's the difference. Cleveland trusted, Donovan Mitchell trusted his teammates to make shots, and they delivered for him. Paolo couldn't get, Paolo wasn't passing at the same level that he was late in that game. And I don't blame him. Like, who earned his trust in that game? The ball, I trusted the ball in his hands the way he played that game. And, that's kind of what happens in these games. That's what happens in these pressure games. You really find out what you trust and what you believe. Dallas right now, and this is, again, Boston is designing for this. Luka's trying to trust his teammates. Boston's giving him very little, and Luka's having to carry the whole load. You're not winning a championship doing that. Again, Boston's defense is really tough to crack. Luka is trying to pass the ball, did a much better job of that in game 2 than game 1, obviously. I think Dallas has a win in them. Boston did not play a great game 2, but they did enough to win. But this is the difference. This is, Boston is a team playing on all cylinders, the kind of team everybody wants to be. And Dallas, frankly, the way Dallas played reminded me a lot of the Magic in both good and bad ways. The Magic obviously struggled in their 2 games in Boston. They beat them in Orlando. Orlando is a team that has historically given Boston problems. Like, size hurts them. The size and versatility does hurt them. It's the same thing they do to other teams. Being able to put a lot of size on them hurts. Dallas doesn't have that. But the way Dallas is playing is very reminiscent of how the Magic play when they get stuck, and why there is a little bit of a ceiling on Orlando, and why they have to elevate themselves. And that's kind of where we are in the finals. Is, will Dallas get enough from the others to push Boston a little bit? Is Boston going to get in their own way? They did a little bit in game 2, but they tightened up when they had to, especially in that third quarter. That's kind of been the series so far. And as I said at the very beginning of this, Dallas has to be more perfect than Boston. Boston can make mistakes. Dallas has to do more correctly to compete with the Celtics than the Celtics do. And the Celtics right now, through 2 games, and obviously we saw the same thing happen with Orlando and Cleveland, through 2 games, Boston just looks like a significantly better prepared and more serious and engaged team. We'll see what Dallas comes up with in game 3 on Wednesday. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them based on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And also be sure to check out my Patreon page. I'm still going through player evaluations. I'm going to start draft profiles here pretty soon. You can check that out at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Again, that's patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, it is Draft Tuesday. We're going to talk about players who have been through the training center, who the Magic are looking at, or that we know they've been looking at the Advent Health Training Center as draft workouts continue or begin, I guess. We'll talk about a little bit what the Magic are kind of looking for, where the Magic might go in the draft. We'll do that tomorrow. We got plenty more coming this week. Franz Wagner player evaluation is coming Wednesday. We'll talk some more cap stuff and kind of mid-level free agents, I think, on Thursday. We got a lot still to go this week. The draft is going to come very, very quickly. Free agency is going to come very, very quickly. We're almost to the good part of the offseason. We're going to get to all that very, very soon. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Prosper and Mike. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.